Welcome to Bali Vision Program. I'm Cak Devi and I'm sitting here with Bapak Made Wijaya, the cultural expert. Welcome to our program, Pak. Om Swastiastu.
Om Swastiastu.
We are going to discuss about Majapahit. What is Majapahit, Pak?
Majapahit was the great classical Hindu empire of East Java. It was the last classical Hindu empire in a 700-year run of classical Buddhist and Hindu empires that started in Kalimantan in Borneo and went to Sriwijaya in Sumatra, then to Central Java, to East Java, Singasari, and eventually to Majapahit in Trowulan, near present-day Mojokerto. Now, the Balinese are considered to be the descendants of Majapahit, because when Islam came to Java, through the courts, through the traders, through the Arab merchants who lived in the great town, it was a big city. It was rumored to be perhaps 10 miles by 10 miles square. When Islam came, the Balinese priests over many generations, priests, princes, artists moved to Bali, where the Hindu was very strong, very creative populace. After the exodus over many generations of the Hindu Javanese to Bali, there was a period of Islam Majapahit, when many temples in Java became tombs for the princes, the Muslim princes, and the Islamic architecture was lent pieces from the old Hindu architecture of Majapahit, and there were many new tombs and mosques built in a unique style that was Islam Majapahit. So there's Hindu Majapahit, Islam Majapahit. The amazing thing is that the last temple of Hindu Majapahit in Java, that the princes and the artisans returned to the Aboriginal style of Java. It wasn't classic Hindu India anymore. These are Candi Suku and Candi Chato outside Solo in Central Java, well worth the detour, any tourist thinking of going to Central Java. And the king Brawijaya, after whom the university in Surabaya is named, King Brawijaya achieved moksha on the slopes. He oneness with the Godhead in a burst of flame, and it was after that period that really all of the Hindu culture survived only in Bali. It survived in the courts in Java for wedding ceremonies, for palace rituals. It's still very Hindu, but really the ancient classical Hindu Java survives today in Bali, as does the Hindu architecture of Java survives in Bali, and even the landscape traditions survive in Bali. The Majapahit garden is only found now in Bali.
How did you discover Majapahit, sir?
I came to Bali as an architecture student in 1973 and jumped ship and ended up living with a Brahmin family in a Majapahit village, a break-off village from Pemachutan, which is the main Majapahit palace in Bali, and learnt about the deer. That was my first impression of, the first time I heard the word Majapahit. I went into the family house temple after a few days. I used to do yoga in my Speedos, in my swimming trunks, and they were too polite to tell me that in Bali you don't go into a temple in your swimwear. I thought I was being sort of a big swami, but I was just being a nutcase. And I asked about the horns and the statue of the deer, the golden deer, which appears in the Ramayana. And they said, this is the Majapahit, this is evidence that our family came from Java Majapahit. And then I started to learn about the architecture. I was fascinated by the 1973, it was very, very beautiful Denpasar. And all the red brick gates, which is particular to Majapahit and particular to Denpasar. You will find red brick Majapahit era architecture all over Southeast Asia and as far as Nepal. It was fashionable from the 16th to the 19th century to use the Roman brick, the red brick. So I learned about the Majapahit influence. One of my landlords in the successive years when I started teaching English at the Dance Academy, where I learnt about the Majapahit rituals and costumes, one of my landlords, who was a prince from Singhi, said, "Dao banima kuri barak," which means don't be brave to have a red gate unless you are a major palace or a temple. So people who used to use red brick gates just randomly were considered to be inviting doom. It would be too hot, the house, if you used a red brick. So it was in these little sort of colloquial ways I started to have an interest in Majapahit.
Pak Made, when did you first go to Java?
I went to Surabaya in 1974 to just experience Java, really. I was working at the Bamboo Den, the famous Losman, Jalan Pemuda, teaching English as a foreign language. And I used to travel to Trowulan. The name Majapahit as a town was wiped out by the Dutch. Because Majapahit had been so expansive, they had ambassadors in Japan and China. They stretched as far as Sumbawa to the east, as far as the Lanatai courts of northern Thailand, and encompassing the Hindu regions of Vietnam, of Champa. The princess from Champa, Hindu Vietnam, actually married the prince in Majapahit. But the Dutch were nervous of this because they didn't want a memory of this very pan-Indonesian indigenous kingdom, culture. So they tried to wipe it out. So it's called Trowulan today, the town of Majapahit. And it's interesting to note that when the freedom fighters climbed onto the flag pole at the Majapahit Hotel in Surabaya, they ripped the blue off the red, white and blue, and it just became the red and white flag, the old standard of Majapahit, the old flag of Majapahit, which became the flag of Indonesia to this day. So I went to the village, and I was just blown away that there was all this Balinese architecture. And I was amazed when I went to the Makam Putri Champa, the graveyard of the Champa, Vietnamese princess, to discover buildings being given offerings, sajen they're called in Java, in Bali it's called Banten, buildings being given offerings in the same way as they existed in temples in Bali. So it seemed that a Javanese tomb was the same as a Balinese temple. And it seemed that what was a palace in Java, a Majapahit palace, was a Majapahit temple in Bali. So immediately through my what's called physical anthropology, comparing things visually, I was putting together a book on Balinese architecture, available at a bookstore near you, and I was inspired to make this discovery, which of course all the experts in Jakarta knew.
Thank you very much, Pak Made. It was really interesting interview, and we look forward for future programs on Majapahit. Om Santi Santi.
Om Santi 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 Om.